All right, let's get right into it. Think about this. We spend, what, hours a day scrolling through these feeds, right? And they're all curated for us by algorithms we can't even see. So what happens when the person who owns that algorithm also has a pretty strong political agenda? Today, we're going to look at X, what used to be Twitter, and how one platform under one owner might be reshaping our entire political world. This quote from mathematician Cathy O'Neill, it really hits the nail on the head. We all like to think of these platforms as these big, open spaces for debate, like a modern town square. But they're not. Not really. They're privately owned, and they're totally controlled by algorithms. And that leads to a really big question, right? If it's not a public square, then what is it? And more importantly, who gets to make the rules?
So, when Elon Musk took over X, he made a huge deal about turning it into a haven for free speech. That was the promise. But what started out as this idea of total openness, well, it quickly sparked a massive political firestorm, and his own personal interventions really put the spotlight on what was happening, especially over in the UK.
And look, Musk didn't just dip his toes in UK politics from the sidelines, he dove in head first. He showed up via video at an anti-immigration rally. He used some really charged language to talk about migrants. He even posted about, overthrowing the British government. These were not just some random off-the-cuff remarks. No, these were direct interventions, and they drew some seriously sharp criticism from all sides of the political aisle.
And yeah, the reaction from the UK political establishment, it was immediate and it was fierce. You had senior politicians like Ed Miliband basically yelling from the rooftops, accusing Musk of being a threat to British democracy. They were demanding he stay out of their country's business. It was a super clear sign that his actions weren't being seen as just commentary anymore, they were being seen as a direct challenge. So that begs the question, right? Was all of this just Elon Musk's personal opinions getting a massive signal boost, or was there something deeper going on inside the platform's actual code? To figure that out, Sky News launched this huge 9-month investigation to try and peek inside the black box of X's algorithm and see what it's really pushing on people.
And their method here was pretty impressive. First, they created brand new accounts, totally clean slates with no history. Some were set up to lean left, some right, and others were kept completely neutral. The whole point was to isolate what the algorithm does on its own. Then, they set up an automated system to just scroll the For You page exactly like a real person would, collecting thousands and thousands of posts. And finally, they fed all that data into an AI to analyze what kind of content the algorithm was actually showing to these brand new users. And the results? Well, they were pretty striking. Those accounts that were set up to be politically neutral, the ones that didn't follow anyone, didn't like anything political, they were shown twice as much right-wing content as left-wing content. Now think about that. It suggests the algorithm isn't just responding to what you're interested in, it might actually be shaping your interests from the very second you sign up.
But here's the kicker. The bias wasn't just about left versus right. It was also a bias toward the extreme. More than half of all the political content that got pushed to these new accounts came from authors who were using toxic language, pushing conspiracy theories, or were linked to radical groups. So it's not just that the algorithm seems to lean right, it seems to have a real appetite for the most inflammatory stuff out there.
Okay, so you might be thinking, this is all happening inside a computer, who cares? But this algorithmic push isn't just some abstract tech problem. It has very real, tangible effects that are rippling out way beyond the UK, influencing political conversations and, yeah, even elections all across Europe.
Let's look at Germany for a perfect example. Research from the DFR lab uncovered what they call the Musk bump for the far-right AfD party. Check this out. The week after Musk started interacting with the party's leader, the views on their posts just skyrocketed. We're talking over 800%. It's a crystal clear example of how one person's actions can massively amplify a political group's reach, especially when he owns the whole platform.
It puts politicians in a super tough spot, right? What do? Do you just leave a platform that you see as basically hostile territory? Or do you stay and fight on that ground? Like the UK Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey said, the big fear is that if you leave, you're just handing the entire conversation over to your opponents. It's a classic catch-22 for politics in the digital age. So, as the influence of X's algorithm just keeps growing, it's kicked off this really high-stakes conflict. On one side, you've got the platform trying to regulate itself, and on the other side, you've got governments stepping in with brand new laws trying to wrestle it under control.
So how do you even begin to fix something like this? Well, there are basically two competing ideas taking shape. First, there's the platform's own solution. After getting rid of most of its traditional moderation teams, X has gone all in on community notes, which is basically crowdsourced fact-checking. Then you have the government's approach.
Lawmakers in the UK and the EU are pushing back with these huge new regulations designed to force accountability.
Now, community notes, they can work. A study from the University of Washington found that they do seriously reduce how much a post gets spread around. But, and this is a huge but, there's a major catch: speed. If a fact-checking note takes, say, 48 hours to even show up, the misinformation has already gone viral. The damage is done long before the correction ever gets there.
Europe's answer to this whole problem is something called the Digital Services Act, or the DSA. And this thing is a big deal. It's not just about telling platforms to take down a few bad posts here and there. No, it's a whole new approach. It forces the biggest platforms, including X, to constantly look for and reduce risks. Risks to elections, to public debate, you name it. And if they don't, they face massive, massive fines. It's a direct shot at the idea that these platforms can just operate without any real-world accountability.
You know, to really get a handle on the kind of power Elon Musk has, it helps to stop thinking of him as just a tech CEO. Instead, it's useful to see him as the next evolution in a long, long line of powerful media moguls who've been shaping public opinion for more than 100 years.
And this timeline really shows you how that power has shifted over time. Way back when, you had newspaper barons like William Randolph Hearst, a guy who could literally help push a country into war. Then, in the late 20th century, you got cable news giants like Rupert Murdoch, who shaped politics through his editorial control. And now we have algorithmic power. Musk doesn't just get to influence what's in the news. The code on his platform decides what news you even see in the first place. It's a fundamental shift from influencing the story to literally programming the entire newsfeed.
And that really brings us to the heart of our new reality. We've seen how one person's influence can be baked right into the code. We've seen the battle heating up between the platform's internal fixes and the government's external regulations. But the biggest change, the fundamental shift, is that power has moved from old-school editorial choices to this new world of algorithmic control. And that leaves us with a huge, critical question for our time. When a platform's code effectively becomes political code, who gets to write the rules?